Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Daredevil review. So it's been a while since I've posted my Daredevil reviews. Honestly, I just kind of needed a break from the series because I honestly wasn't a fan of the series overall. At least, the episodes building up to the last couple of episodes here. I thought that it just really wasn't the same Daredevil that we had, I guess with Netflix. I think that show is still so much better, but there were elements here of the finale that really does show why. The cast of the original was so strong, the story was so great, and I just don't really understand a lot of story choices throughout the season. I'll give some thoughts on some of the stuff that happened in the last couple of episodes here because I never gave my actual review of those episodes, but I will mostly focus obviously on the finale here and what happened, and I think what they're setting up for season 2. So before any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all my Daredevil content like this. Now, this episode begins in the aftermath of saving Kingpin's life. We do actually see Matt waking up, and he wants to learn a lot more about Foggy's case and whatnot. We do learn that Vanessa was the one that actually wanted Foggy dead because of the case that he had and what it meant for her. And so the flashback that we saw was, for me, I actually didn't mind it. Sometimes I don't like flashbacks because it's sometimes they could be really saying what we already know, right? And it's just okay, we already get this, and this is taking up a lot of screen time. You could be focusing on some other things, but I think with this show, because it's hard to believe who's on what side or who did what, and having a scene like this confirming it, and so that we can see that yes, Vanessa actually, she really wanted Foggy dead, and so she releases Bullseye and wants him to go and do that. And so obviously a year later now, and we see Matt waking up, and we're learning all of these big reveals throughout the season. All of it sort of comes full circle here in this episode, and I do like the fact that we did learn all of that. I think that was all great. The Kingpin is officially back now, and he has a lot of power now, and we see that at the end of the episode, but he wants Matt dead. There's no oh, he tried to save my life. I really wonder why, right? He just doesn't really care overall. He just doesn't like Matt Murdock, and he wants him dead, and he wants to figure out who's loyal around him and everything, and the power gets shut down this episode, and so Matt leaves. I thought a lot of that, in terms of how this episode was set up from the beginning to the end, really did feel like a classic Daredevil episode. And when I say that, it's just the feeling of what this episode was like. And I think that you would probably recognize that if you watched the old show. The episodes before this really did just lack any personality. And I didn't understand a lot of the Muse stuff. There was a lot of excitement there, but a lot of it was so unrelated. And when we eventually see Karen in this episode, and we'll talk about Karen in a second here, it really did tell me immediately, this should have been the show from the beginning. It literally should have. I don't know why Karen and Foggy had to leave the show. I mean, obviously Foggy's death was a big part of the season. I kind of understand that aspect, but to not have Karen at all, this whole season is just, I don't get that. But we'll talk about that near the end. We do see the Punisher. The Punisher is actually back, and oh man, I thought this whole entire scene here was absolutely incredible. And I will say, in terms of, this show being on Disney Plus and a lot of, the action and what you're seeing here with all the kills and everything, it's kind of surprising, honestly. I think that was the big concern from Netflix's Marvel going to Disney's Marvel, right? Were you going to tone down on a lot of that? And I actually think some of the stuff that we saw here was way worse than what we saw on Marvel's Netflix. So I have to say, in terms of Disney doing this, really incredible stuff. This is what you want to see from the Punisher. You want to see him back like this. And the dynamic between Daredevil and Punisher is still there. They both don't like each other, but they're both kind of friends. They both help each other out. And I just love whenever Jon Bernthal's on screen as the Punisher, because I think that he really does add so much to the show. But after the whole sequence in the building, that's where eventually we learn that Karen actually returns. And so yeah, we get a lot of scenes with Karen and Daredevil and the Punisher talking, and it was just nice. Honestly, seeing all of that, it really brought me back to the old show, because it does feel like it. Immediately they captured that magic that was, what made the old show so great. And I didn't want these scenes to end. I was so worried that Karen was going to leave at some point. I didn't want the Punisher to be gone. I just felt like this is what the show should be about. This is what made the old show so amazing. Like, introduce new characters and stuff. Like, I really do not care about that, but I feel like the characters they introduced this season were basically replacing Foggy and Karen. And I'm like, you already had those two characters. Like, I just don't understand that. The Punisher is just a beast, though. Honestly, like, encountering all of those cops, or I guess the task force from the Kingpin, he took a lot of them out and he just didn't back down at all. I actually thought for a second, like, would he accept them as, like, you know, I guess his army or whatever. And I thought, like, it would make no sense for him to do that because he really does do things on his own. He's not like that. And if he accepts that, that shouldn't be, you know, what happens. And so I'm so happy they went in the direction they did. And it was just, you know, him making fun of them because I was thinking about it for a second. I'm like, well, what if he just kind of like lied for a second to be like set free and then he takes them out? I'm like, no, he would never do that. He is so honest and truthful to who he is. He is such a strong character. Like, he's calling them a bunch of names and laughing and everything, right? Like, he does not care. He is so just truthful, faithful to who he is. And they really got Punisher right in this show. I'll just say that. But the ending sequence here, I think, honestly, was a little bit disappointing because a lot of it was like set up for the future. Like, I don't really understand the overall point of season 1 because, like, we do see that Heather is now joining Fisk. And I guess Heather doesn't know that Matt is Daredevil. So I do understand that aspect to it. But when I'm thinking about it, like, Kingpin literally offered her that position. I would have said no. Why would you take that position? Because Matt's telling you all this stuff about him. Like, I don't really understand that part of it unless she's going to actually become a villain at some point in season 2. I guess we're going to have to wait and see. But we do see that Daredevil is back now. And I think that was sort of the point of this show, or I guess this season, is really just having Matt Murdock become the Daredevil again. And it took a really long time. It took all season. Like, even though we had scenes where he was dressed up as the Daredevil and he was taking out Muse and a bunch of other characters, this and that, throughout, you know, the last however many episodes, it really felt like he still wasn't Daredevil, like truly himself. And I think he wrestled with that. But Karen being there, and they talked about Foggy and a lot of backstory stuff where they just got into, you know, why are they doing the things that they wanted to do. And I think at the end, Matt really got to the point where, yeah, I think he's okay with being Daredevil again. Like, he doesn't associate Daredevil with being a really bad person anymore. He can actually save the city here, and they're going to rebuild the city. And where this episode ends, the Kingpin takes over the entire city and is there's a lot of new laws now, right, throughout the city. And so basically Daredevil's gonna have a hard time really being anywhere. And so I'm just curious as to where this is gonna go for season 2. And so also the Punisher was captured, like we did see that, and in the post-credit scene we do see that he does get out. So I'm guessing that's a tease for like the Punisher special that's coming out, right? I think they're filming that right now, or it's coming out next year or something like that. I'm kind of concerned about that just because I don't know who the villains are going to be. I don't know who the characters are going to be. So I mean, obviously the Punisher shows are really great. I just hope that it's not a lot of what season 1 was here. And so let's actually talk about, I guess, this season overall here. Like, I talked about this episode, but the one thing that I have to say based off of watching the finale here is that it didn't really feel like a finale. Like, it really did just feel like setup for season 2. Like, I enjoyed it. Seeing the Punisher back was amazing. Seeing the story here of, you know, Matt trying to figure out what's going on with, I guess, Vanessa and the Kingpin and a lot of that. And they were talking about Foggy quite a bit. You had Karen come back and everything. But a lot of this just felt like what the first episode could have been, or like what certain moments throughout the season could have been like. And it just really made me realize that, like, this is what we were missing out on the entire season. And this finale here, like, I just look at the structure of the season and it just makes absolutely no sense. Like, it really feels like the first episode was just a random episode that doesn't really connect too much with, you know, the stories from episode 2 all the way before the finale, or like the last 2 episodes here. It feels like there was some story there that was just completely separated from, you know, all of that, and really built up Muse quite a bit. And I feel like that's where my letdown is, because I really feel like Muse was not supposed to be the villain at all, like not at all. And so they literally got rid of the character here because he wasn't a part of the story. And there's a lot of stuff happening with Bullseye, Punisher, Kingpin, and Vanessa and that storyline in the last 2 episodes here. So everything feels very disconnected this season. Like, it really is so noticeable when you look back at all of it. So that's kind of my thing about the season. I just honestly, wasn't a fan of the season. I think that this really felt like some sort of random TV show focusing on Matt Murdock after Foggy's death. And then it built up to the finale where eventually he sort of, he got over it kind of in a way, but he's back now. Daredevil is back. And, I felt like this show was just correcting a lot of where the story was based off of the previous Marvel spinoffs that these characters have been a part of. Like, they really wanted to reset everything. And they spent the whole season doing it. And there's just a lot of things everywhere. So I'm not the biggest fan of this season. I think it was great to have these characters back. Like, out of 10, I wouldn't give it a 5 because honestly, I did enjoy it a lot more than that. I think that the Punisher scenes and a lot of that are really great, and you have to give it a higher rating than that. I couldn't really give it an 8 or 9 out of 10. That's a little too high because there's a lot of issues here. So my rating for this is going to be a 7 out of 10. I think that I liked watching it because it was actually watchable. I think the drama and some of the story stuff was exciting. A lot of the visuals were great. I just think that they just should have done what we got more in the finale, but throughout the entire season. And I feel like the story wasn't worked out properly for season 1 because it just feels like the structure of it was everywhere. And I hope going into season 2, it's not going to be like that. But from what I've heard, it's not really necessarily going to be like that at all because they sort of have like one story laid out. I know that with season 1, it was just, it was a mess to actually make the season. I think that they had one version of the story and then they added more episodes or something. Like, I don't know, all that's rumors. I have no idea if any of that's true, but when I'm watching the episode, that's just sort of how it feels. But I'm going to leave it here though. Definitely post your thoughts down below. Did you enjoy this episode? Did you enjoy the season overall? I'm giving it a 7 out of 10 because I did enjoy it, even though I did focus on some of the complaints here in the last little bit. I thought the finale was the best episode out of the last couple of episodes, and I think that it probably honestly was because we had Karen and the Punisher there, and I just think if Karen was there the entire time, honestly, it would have made a big difference. And yeah, I hope that for season 2, we see Karen quite a bit. I really hope that she's a part of the main cast and she's there the entire time. I think it'll make a big difference and the show will feel like, the old Marvel TV show. So anyways, I'm gonna leave it here. Make sure to post our thoughts down below. Hope you all enjoyed the video and I'll see you in the next one.